In October 1957, shortly after the Russian satellite Sputnik is put into orbit, suddenly, a colossal robot from outer space crashes into the ocean near Rockwell, Maine, shaking the earth and awakening the curious minds of the town's inhabitants. As a spunky 9-year-old boy named Hogarth Hughes stumbles upon it one fateful night, the robot had begun eating the power lines of an electrical substation, and in doing so, it electrocuted itself. Hogarth springs into action and shuts down the power, saving the robot's life. Days later, Hogarth decides to track down the robot and take a picture of it. After hours of waiting, the robot surprises Hogarth, and soon the two become friends. Suffering from amnesia, the Iron Giant accompanies Hogarth wherever he goes. When they come across a railroad, the giant starts eating the rails, and Hogarth tells the giant to repair the tracks. As he does so, a train collides with the giant, breaking him into pieces. Hogarth hides the damaged robot in his house's barn, where the parts can repair themselves. Later, he reads comic books to the giant, and they bond over their mutual admiration for Superman. But soon, U.S. government agent Kent Mansley arrives, discovering possible evidence of the giant. Mansley takes a room for rent at Hogarth's home and follows the boy around, hoping to learn more. Hogarth evades Mansley and takes the giant to the junkyard for Dean McCoppin, a beatnik who had earlier befriended Hogarth. Paranoid about the alien invasion, Mansley alerts the U.S. Army to the presence of the giant, and they force an investigation. But Dean reveals the robot disguised as a scrap metal artwork, and Mansley is admonished and leaves. Later, the giant saves 2 boys falling from a roof, and the army troops seize an opportunity to attack him. The giant flies away with Hogarth, and the army requests Navy and Air Force support, sending in a USAF F-86 Sabre. But the giant prevents his programming from taking over and fighting back. The giant is shot down, and after being shot down, the giant mistakes Hogarth's unconsciousness for death. He becomes both saddened and enraged, and activates his energy weapons to fight back. The giant's defensive weapons programming takes over, and battles with the completely outmatched army. Mansley lies to Rogard, telling him that the robot killed Hogarth, and suggests that they can wipe the robot out with a Polaris nuclear missile from the USS Nautilus, the first production nuclear submarine ever made. Hogarth wakes up and calms the giant, causing him to deactivate his weapons. As Mansley keeps telling Rogard to attack, Dean says the giant never harmed anyone, and that any attack on the giant is triggering a defense mechanism. Seeing Hogarth alive, Rogard has the army stand down, but before he can tell the Nautilus the same thing, Mansley orders the missile launch anyway. Furious, Rogard reminds Mansley that the missile, currently targeted on the giant, will also kill everyone in Rockwell. When Mansley cowardly attempts to flee, the giant stops him, and the army forces Mansley to stay and die with them. Hogarth tells the giant of Rockwell's impending fate, and the giant makes the decision to fly off, smiling to himself that he chooses to be Superman and not a weapon. The giant uses his body to intercept the missile before it reaches Rockwell, causing a massive explosion high in the atmosphere. The townspeople and soldiers are all very relieved to have survived, but are saddened by the giant's apparent sacrifice. Sometime later, Annie and Dean are dating, and Dean has built a statue in the park to honor the giant from the grateful citizens of Rockwell. Hogarth receives a package from General Rogard, a small bolt, the only piece of the giant that was ever found. That night, Hogarth hears a familiar beeping coming from the bolt, which is trying to make its way out of the window. Hogarth opens the window to let the bolt out, happy once again to see that his parts are still alive. Somewhere in Iceland, on a glacier that I can't pronounce, the giant is somehow still functional after all this time, and begins to repair and rebuild himself. Parts of the giant approach where his head rests. We see the giant wake up, and it smiles.